Before we have the Pledge of Allegiance,
Right. Sorry.
All right.
we have a little bit of reorganization to go through. Mr. McDaniel has decided to step down as our board secretary. I don't know if you want to read your letter or not, but we will do that before we take up the pledge. That's the way it is on the agenda. That's why.
Due to the fact that no longer being the school board to run the April election, and officially we're on the April meeting, I feel like I should be on the Secretary of Board of Education. So I respectfully resign, but I'm willing to help the next person, in the position.
Much appreciated.
And regardless of who takes the position, the pay is going to be the same. Zero, everybody.
And I'll point out the letter is effective for the March board meeting.
Same March, same March. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So the March board, beyond the March board.
Beyond.
You want to read it, just kind of so everybody eats. You want to read it? Yeah, read it. Read
Who
it.
wants to read it?
I just put in flowery words.
Mr. Bova, due to the fact that beyond the April 5th election, officially at the April board meeting, I will not be a member of the St. Genevieve RG Board of Education. Thus, I will no longer be able to fulfill my duties as secretary to the board and wish to resign as secretary effective at the March board meeting. If there is anything I can do to help the newly elected secretary, just let me know. I'm letting you know.
You not say honor before?
You did.
Say honor before.
But we're gonna, I believe it's gonna be effective as of March 15th. So you still gotta sit. I would entertain a motion to
I'll make the motion to acknowledge the resignation letter from Terry. Secretary, Section 2, Board of Education, effective March 15th.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Me too.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a nominate and elect a new board of education.
I'd like to nominate Joe Lisa.
So we have a nomination, a second for Jerry Diesel to serve as the secretary. Are there any other nominations?
Motion that nomination cease and be elect by acclamation Joe Diesel as Secretary of the St. Genevieve Elementary Board of Education, effective March 15th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and a second. David Bova, yes. Eric Bosler?
Yes.
Geraldine Diesel?
Yes.
James Kirchner?
Yes.
Martha Riesinger?
Yes.
Richard Rudloff?
Yes.
Terrence McDaniel?
Yes.
Congratulations. Mr. Mack has offered to give all his services.
Yeah, and I'm going to take him
There
up
will
on
be
it.
a fee now.
Okay. Okay, I can practice.
All right, next, we have the Pledge of Allegiance, if you all would stand. I pledge
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, David Bova, here. No, next meeting.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Eric Bosler.
Here.
Geraldine Diesel.
Here.
James Kirschner.
Here.
Martha Riesinger. Richard Rudloff.
Here.
Terrence McDaniel.
Yes.
All present and accounted for. Next, we have the Board of Education norms, which I read at the last meeting, but they are available if you would like to read through them. And next, we have the approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda of February 15, 2022, regular open session.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
A motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the guidelines for public participation. Board members and administrators will listen to concerns and will respond when appropriate by mail or telephone at a later date. Public comment period will not exceed 15 minutes. No individual will be permitted to speak more than once during this period, and each speaker will be allotted no more than 5 minutes. Per policy BDDH-1, public participation at board meetings, those guidelines and procedures will be followed. I do not have any comment cards nor emails.
I do not either.
Next, we have report of the superintendent.
Thank you. I do not believe there are any notes of appreciation in the packet this month, but this is an item we leave on every month. The next item I have to share with you is our enrollment the last Wednesday in January. So this slide shows you our K-12 enrollment from the first day of school, our September count, and then our January count. If you look at the first day of school this year, we were down quite a bit compared to the previous years. In September, we rebounded and we're up 4 students compared to the 2021 school year. And here in January, I think we're up 26 compared to last year at this time. So happy to share that data and to see the rebounds start to happen and students start to come back to school since COVID hit. The next slide here, I have our preschool enrollment to share with you. Again, first day September and our January counts. We were up 2 students on the first day of school in our early childhood programs. In September, we were up again 11, and here in January, we are up again by 17. So as you see, our early childhood programs continue to grow. We have students in our community who have needs, and we're happy to serve them. The next item on my report is to recognize and thank all of you. The Missouri School Board Member Recognition Week is March 6th through 12th. Ms. Otto, our Communications Director, put this nice slide together with all of your pictures, this collage. I really like it. By your name tag, there is a certificate from MSBA thanking you for your service. And in board docs, there is also a proclamation. And I will read it. This is from Governor Parsons. It says, whereas the system of quality public education is essential to the future of our state and nation, and whereas the people of Missouri have a long tradition of support for public education in their school districts, and whereas local school boards are the ultimate expression of the unique American institution of representative governance of public school districts, and whereas local school boards acting on behalf of and in close connection with the people of their communities chart the direction of education in their communities, and whereas local school boards serve as the key community advocate for children, youth, in the public schools, now therefore I, Michael L. Parson, Governor of the State of Missouri, do hereby proclaim March 6th through 12th, 2022 to be School Board Recognition Week in Missouri, and urge all Missourians to recognize school boards as they strive with their communities to improve our public schools through quality leadership. And then it's signed and his seal is on it. And the proclamation was signed and stamped on January 18th, 2022. So I want to thank all of you for your service. You've all been a joy for me to work with. Mr. McDaniel, Mr. Rudloff, as you get ready to finish out your last couple months. I can't express enough to all of you how much you've helped me along the way, and I thank you for your service to this community and to our kids, and keeping our students in this community your priority in the decisions that you make. So thank you. All righty. The next item I have in my report is to share with the public our pre-K and kindergarten registration dates again. St. Genevieve Elementary will do their registrations on Saturday, March 19th from 8 to 2 p.m. Bloomsdale Elementary will do theirs Saturday, April 2nd from 8 to 1 p.m. Scheduling begins next Tuesday on February 22nd. So again, if you have a preschooler or a student who is kindergarten or coming into kindergarten this fall, please call the office at Bloomsdale or St. Genevieve Elementary, wherever your child will be attending, and get scheduled for their screening. Our annual school board election is scheduled to take place Tuesday, April 5th, 2022. Filing opened on December 7th at 8 a.m., closed on Tuesday, December 28th at 5 p.m., and we have 6 candidates running for 2 seats. Jamie Nagar-Ballou, who is in attendance tonight, Michael Stoll, who is also in attendance tonight, Larry Pfaff, Joshua Gettinger, who's also in attendance tonight, Samuel Barbagello, and Bradley Brad Arnold. So please make sure you get out and vote on April 2nd. April 5th. Sorry about that. I was looking at all the 2s in 2022. So vote on April 5th. The next item in my report are our principal reports. And I think Mrs. Zusman is up first, as always.
I'd like to say thank you for your service as well. I know it's apparent to us at school that you take children's consideration first, and I hope that the public understands that. Each and every one of you come and visit the school, and you always ask how it is for the children, not for the administration or the teachers. It is all about the kids. That's what we're there for, so we appreciate it. I hope I can work this thing tonight. Okay, we've been really busy. I was just telling Mr. Mercer we've had first AMI Day, then we just had Super Bowl Day, Valentine's Day, and it's the rise of the full moon. So it's been eventful at elementaries. This is a picture of our students who met their reading goal. This is just a few of the classes. We have a picture of all the classes that met their reading goals. And each student that meets their reading goal for the quarter gets to pick a book out of our book vending machine. They like getting the gold coins and using those. That's important. At elementary, literacy is our focus, and we try to make it a really big deal when they meet their reading goal. We had 100th day. We had all kinds of celebrations, and we also had Kindness Week, all kind of mixed in the same week. So we counted one of our AMI days as a day, and then the day that we came back, it was the 100th day of school. So kindergarten, first grade, and second and third grade really celebrated it a lot. Fifth grade celebrated, but not as in-depth as the lower grades. And then up in the top, the first picture is a day 100 student, but the second 2 pictures are our 4th grade kindness leaders. And what we decided to do this year was collect data on how much kindness they receive from each other in the building. And we have our 4th grade leaders go around with their Chromebook, and first thing in the morning, they ask the students, did they experience kindness from someone this week? And they have to rate it on a scale of 1 to 5. And then, did you treat somebody kind this week? And they rate it on a scale from 1 to 5. And we've been doing it for the past 3 weeks, and we went from a 4.11, which was really good, to a 4.33, and then this past week was 4.38. So we like the data, and the kids, it's getting them to think about the kindness in the building. And then to be kind to others. It was Counselor Appreciation Week. We all appreciated Miss Rowland this past week. The picture in the middle, our theme was our counselor is cool, so we all brought in sunglasses and made signs for her. And then each class made cards, or they brought in something special for her and let her know how much we appreciate her. She does a lot. We did a new student welcome breakfast again this semester because we got a lot of new students in over Christmas and January. She does like our 5th grade mixer. She plans our kindness week, our red ribbon week. she does do a lot for our building and our students, so we do appreciate her. She makes a big difference. I think I skipped one. Maybe not. Okay, and then those are some examples of our 5th grade essays and pictures for, they did a whole story on Black History Month. And if you get a chance, you should walk down the hallway because they have some amazing drawings and writings. I mean, they're like pages and pages. So they spent a lot of time on those, and they're really proud of them. We also had 5th grade DARE graduation, and then those are some pictures of some pre-K Valentine's boxes. They got pretty creative this year. One is a little vanity. She had her hair straightener and brush. It was really cute. And I feel like I skipped a slide, but I guess, did I? There we go. Okay. We did not have a lot of student positive office referrals, I think just because the teachers were kind of busy and lost track of that. But we did have teachers nominating other teachers. Miss Ram, this is like her 3rd one. I said I think she's going to win the Golden Teacher Award for the year. She's very resourceful, and she's like a wealth of knowledge on SPED students, and a lot of teachers go to her and ask her questions. So they appreciate her help. And then the other one is our new resource room aide, Bailey McClin, and she is doing an amazing job. She just connected with the students right away, and she's very helpful. So she got nominated. And then we had a team challenge. We felt like it was time for a little bit of fun at our faculty meeting, and they had to do like, I think it was 10 different things around the building, and they had to send pictures, and they won prizes and money that they could spend in their classroom. And then the bottom left-hand corner is our student RTI groups. Our main focus is literacy. Like I said before, that's what we really focus on in elementary, but a lot of times we get to help with math too, and that was some kids working on math with Miss Fritsch. She's very helpful when we have those RTI groups, so we appreciate her help too. And I think that's it for Bloomsdale Elementary.
Good evening. Hi. I want to also say thank you. I will keep it at that. I'm not sappy and mushy like that, but thank you for your service. We appreciate everything you do. At St. Genevieve Elementary, one of our highlights since we've come back in January is we held our first semester Habit Leader ceremony. This is where we honored our 1st and 2nd quarter Habit Leaders for the school year. On the right, we have our 2 student MCs, Mabry Jokerst and Allie Geck. They MC'd the entire production and led it all. I want to give a shout out to all the teachers of the Teacher Lighthouse team that put this event together. They put a lot of hard work and logistics and preparation to get it off and running. And then there's just one picture of the grade level group there. We took individual pictures and grade level pictures, and as the students walked across the stage, we were able to read something that their teacher had written about them and why they were nominated. So that was a really fun event, and we were glad we were able to have it in person. We've had 5 office referrals since we've returned in January. We have across the top Dominic Mooney, Connor Hill, Isabel Nipper, and at the bottom we have Oliver Thompson and Barrett Kreitler. And like Mrs. Usman said, I think the teachers have been pretty busy with other things, so we'll have to revisit making sure we're giving those positive office referral nominations this next month. This is sort of an assortment of pictures of occurrences that have happened in our building. In the top left, we have Mrs. Jessie Bloom and Miss Jessica Grimminger featured with 2 of our students who presented them with gift certificates for School Counselors Week. Throughout the week, the different classes made them posters, gave them treats, just acknowledged them for all of the great things they do for our building. In the middle, this is our 5th grade team. They are the Fab Feisty 5. We have a team competition going on in our building, and our February challenge was to take a copy paper box and turn it into a Valentine. So the teams made Valentines and they came up with a claw machine, and it actually works. So the kids went through the lobby and they voted and they took first place in bragging rights. And in the top right-hand corner, the fifth grade teachers are always, they're really big on having the students build boxes and create boxes. And those are some amazing boxes. Like, if you get an opportunity to look at those up close, they are pretty creative and thought out, and just, they were really impressive. In the bottom left-hand corner, we also did a kindness week in conjunction with everything else that was going on in the building. And I think on Monday it was wear red or pink for kindness. Our student lighthouse team put that together, and there's a group of fifth graders posing. And then we had the kindergarten students there at the bottom. They were celebrating the 100th day of school. They did all sorts of activities with 100 items and just different things, and it was a fun day. And at the bottom right, we have one of our students who received a prize for our K-8 fundraiser, and he's pictured there with Major Hammett. He's the guy that coordinates it all for us. And we want to thank our parents for participating. It was very successful in our building. This slide is a collaboration slide. These pictures all encompass the collaborations that we've had with middle school. The two top pictures are, and Dr. Mercer, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the two top pictures are the student council members who have arranged and contacted me to work with each grade level to do a story and an activity. And what was really neat about this whole process is it's not the sponsor or the teacher contacting me, it's the students. They are contacting me. They sent me a list of what they want to do with each grade level, the stories they wanted to read. They had the activities linked up. And so I communicate back with them and I'm like, okay, guys, like the teachers say you can come at this time. Do you have the materials? And they're like, yes, we're bringing everything but glue sticks. And they showed up with everything, and the kindergarten teachers said that it was a very successful project, and we are currently working on setting up first and second grade right now. So that was exciting to see. And the bottom two pictures are of the community helpers? Community service. And they too wanted to come in and work with our students in classrooms. And this is a little different. They sort of just come in and do whatever the teacher asks them to do. They sit and read with a group of students, as pictured there in the middle, or the student at the right is sitting there at the kidney table doing an activity that the teacher requested that they do. And the bottom left is a picture of our fifth grade band recruitment. Mrs. Elders organized an opportunity for the fifth grade students at Bloomsdale and the fifth grade students in St. John to come in and get a sort of taste of what middle school band would be like. And then I listed a few other events that are coming up as far as collaboration with our middle school. On February 24th, the fifth grade parent night will be taking place. So for those parents that have students in fifth grade entering middle school, they can come meet Dr. Mercer and Mrs. Huffman and Mrs. Meyer and find out a little bit more about middle school. And then the following day, the fifth grade will go up and they will visit SGMS, and that's always a fun day for them. They're super excited to go tour the halls of the middle school. And on March 2nd, Mrs. Meyer, the guidance counselor, will come down and talk to our students about getting enrolled in those electives and things that they're all excited to take in middle school. And then finally, I have our January feature teacher and super staff nominations. We only selected our February ones today, so I will share those with you next month. But rather than reading the actual write-ups, I selected some keywords that were highlighted for each of these ladies. And Mrs. Kunzel is our fifth grade Title I aide, and some of the keywords were patient, positive, encouraging, goes above and beyond, team player, willing to help wherever she is needed. And then Mrs. Beckett is one of our fifth grade teachers, and she takes on a lot of extracurricular activities outside her teaching duties. She mans our SGE Facebook page. She takes care of our shared photo drive for the building. She's now taken over the yearbook. and she also volunteers for the robotics team. And other things that were said about her was she makes connections on a personal level, goes above and beyond, and is always doing whatever is best for students. So congrats to those two ladies. And that's it for St. John Elementary.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. It's nice to be back with you again. Excuse me. And thank you all for your service. Middle school is working on a more delicious way to express our gratitude for next meeting, so you have that to look forward to. I started tonight with a peek inside some of our classrooms. On the left-hand side is Mrs. Bosler's classroom, and she's working with her students on constructing arguments. And without telling us in the office what exactly was going on, these students started appearing in the office, sometimes 2 at a time, sometimes 3 at a time, to ask me if they could have a free day. And the point was to make a logical argument to me using ethos, pathos, and logos, only they didn't tell me. So the first group that came in, my response was, well, I trust your teacher to make that decision. Go talk to her. So those kids disappeared. And then a short time later, a few more came back, and the students asked me again, but said I had to decide. That Mrs. Bosler said I had to decide. Only they didn't present an argument. So I sent them back. And, you start catching on pretty quickly when you get the same questions over and over again. So little by little, they started, I think they were learning from each other. They started improving their arguments, improving their approaches. Unfortunately, none of them got a yes. But they learned a lot. And that was kind of a fun activity for them to do. Right in the center, and I apologize, it's a little bit fuzzy. This is actually a screen capture from a video that you might have seen on social media. This is from Mrs. Miller's science classroom, and she's demonstrating how cumulonimbus clouds are formed. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. It's a great video. If you get a chance, you can find it easily on Facebook. And one of the favorite activities for the kids. They talk about that for a long time. And then on the right-hand side is a picture of our community service group, as Nanya mentioned, reading to some first graders. So I thought you might enjoy a little peek at what's going on in the building. We also celebrated our second quarter WINGS students. And as you may remember, WINGS is a title that the students can earn based on good grades, good attendance, and good behavior. And the standards raise a little bit each round we make. So this was our second round in the time period formerly known as second quarter. And we had all kinds of activities for our students and honestly had hundreds of students qualify when you add up 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. But we did them individually by grade level. And they could come in and play games or watch videos or play knockout or just pass the volleyball around, whatever they wanted to do. And we had great teachers come in and volunteer to help cover those guys, gave them some snacks, and just had fun with them. For each grade level, it was about an hour. So that was a lot of fun. We've had some positive office referrals since we've been back from Christmas. And as you know, I always like to mention those by name. But one thing we don't always do when we're here is go over the specific reasons why those students got their positive office referral, or dragons on fire, as we call them in middle school. But some of their reasons are deeply personal. Some of them are because of their own growth, because of their own accomplishments, and things that don't necessarily need to be shared, but should be celebrated. So I'm glad that we have the opportunity to do that, and I appreciate our teachers for taking the time to do so. This month we had Dalton Nagger, Anna Fisher, Kendon Myers, Colton Brace, Lucas Steve, and Hazel Schwent. Our Spotlight Award winner in January was Mrs. Cassie Miller herself. Some of the comments we received from her peers include that she jumps right in, she has a positive character, and she's always willing to try new things. Recently, I myself described Cassie as comfortable enough to accept leadership from the senior teachers around her, but also brave enough to try new things and bring new ideas to the table. And that's a great combination for a starting teacher to have. Our February Spotlight winner is Mrs. Hogan Miller. That was just announced today. In fact, her award is so fresh, we don't have the trophy picture, so I had to revert to the yearbook picture. And she actually received many nominations today, and a few of the comments that I included on the screen are that she relates well to SGMS students. She always puts kids first and teaches from the heart. So congratulations to both of those two ladies. Outstanding examples of what we have to offer at St. Genevieve Middle School. quick peek at what's coming up ahead. We are closing out Kindness Week tomorrow, and the students have done an outstanding job, our student council students, under the leadership of Mrs. Mertzleft and Mrs. Jokers. They've done a great job with that. We've had some dress-up days, positive messages in the hallways, a little bit of fundraising. And tomorrow concludes with something that I think is going to be pretty cool, and it's simply dress nice. So it'll be interesting to see how our kids show up at school tomorrow. Dress nice. As Nanya mentioned, we've got 5th grade parent night coming up on the 24th. That's at 6 o'clock in the old gym. Followed the next day with the 5th graders visit to SGMS. On March 1st, we're hosting the Maja Conference Choir right here in the PAC. And on March 21st, we'll have our Big Smiles Dental Clinic. There is a chance that could get consolidated with another date because we've been really efficient at servicing those kids through that program that we're down to only a few left. So we might consolidate and do it on a different date and combine with other buildings. But as for now, it's March 21st. Any questions? Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening, everyone. I, much like the rest, would like to take an opportunity to thank all of you guys for your service. I know Dr. Mercer's going to provide a meal, and we have a special treat for you guys from the high school next month as well. Actually, Paul knows we've been working on it with our principal advisory group here the last meeting that we just had on Monday, so we have something planned for all of you guys for that piece. So, and Paul, I do want to recognize him. He is our senior class president. He has now made the last 3 board meetings. And it's really nice to see a student and have a student presence here for these meetings. Paul's been a fantastic member of our principal advisory group, so I just wanted to take an opportunity to recognize him here this evening as well. And I must say, Dr. Mercer, Paul did say that tomorrow is dress your best. So for those of you that don't know, I've got a picture in here of Paul, and you'll see what I mean here in a few minutes. I wanted to take an opportunity to, before we even really get started with kind of what's going on in the high school, kind of direct your guys' attention. I was talking to Dr. Taylor before we came in. If you guys notice this back wall back here, we're really working hard. I really just wanted to give a big shout out and a big thanks to our maintenance department. They have been fantastic. I keep coming at them with ideas and change and some things that I would like to see, and we're really working hard to recreate this space in the commons area. We've started with the chairs. We've got some tables on the way to kind of reconfigure some things. And so then I had this crazy idea about adding more electrical work, and then they said, well, what if we do this? And so they came up with this idea of including these power strips. I'm working with our industrial tech teachers to create actually tabletops. So that's actually going to turn into a space where students will be able to sit. I envision it kind of like an airport. You walk into an airport and it's got the different seating and different opportunities for individuals to be able to charge. So that's kind of where that idea has kind of formulated and come from. But there have been a lot of people that have gone into a lot of hard work there. But I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to thank really Greg Howell has worked extremely hard on that space. And really going in, he's done a ton of taping and mudding and painting and really just making it look a whole lot better. For those of you that don't remember what was there, you can look right behind Mrs. Geck, and that kind of reminds you guys of what was there. So we're really excited about that piece and that opportunity for our kids.
And Dr. Boyd, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in. When they cut those holes,
Yes.
they started seeing reflections. And so started looking in the holes. And if you attended school here back in the day, there used to be a glass wall that went here, and there was a glass wall where that wall is, and this was an open courtyard. What they did is they encased the windows inside the wall. So the original
windows are still there.
Are still there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to find.
I was one of those days.
We've really had a lot of neat things going on in the high school, and I've really tried to take an opportunity to not only get into classrooms, but do a better job of documenting it with pictures. Our kids are doing amazing things. You see Braden Hook all the way on the far left-hand side is actually working in Mr. Rapp's class on constructing his own drone from scratch, and he's worked on ordering just a few pieces along the way, but all of it he is constructing. He's 3D printing. and really working on building that drone from scratch. And it's been a lot of fun to watch the evolution of that and watch the creativity and just to see how he's problem solving and thinking through. And one of the pieces was really interesting because the electrical work wasn't exactly formatted for the battery that they had purchased, so he had to go through and rewire everything. And so it's really interesting to watch him have to problem solve and work through that. So that's been a lot of fun to kind of document that piece and see his evolution and work on that. Dr. Curtin's students in her anatomy class have spent some time doing some dissections. I know that Dr. Bosner was in earlier this year and they took a look at dissecting a pig's heart. This go around they were taking a look at different pieces of chickens and chicken legs, and they were doing some dissections and looking at different muscles and different tissues within her anatomy class. So that was a lot of fun to be able to pop in there and see that great work from our students and what Dr. Curtin was doing in there. And then I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity just to thank our industrial tech and our industrial arts departments. Just every time, I know I mentioned it earlier with coming to them with the idea of these tables, but everything that they've been able to do, I've come at them with. If you see over all the way on the far right-hand side, that is the ballerina that we actually have at the bottom of the stairwell over here by the science, or leading up to science, leading upstairs. If you guys haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that, for two reasons I'm extremely excited about that. Number one, that piece of artwork was done by a student, oh my gosh, several years ago. I was in the classroom and it was done at the variety show, and Callie Martin did that just in the matter of, Dr. Mercer, 7-8 minutes. It was extremely short. They played music and she got up there and just put that piece of artwork together at the variety show. It was amazing to watch. And so it sat in a room for a little while until we had an opportunity to get the right kids, and this year was that opportunity to get the right kids. And so we had some students that actually went in and actually constructed. So the case that you see on the far right-hand side was all student-led and all student constructed. They went down, they worked with Mrs. Bowman, they got dimensions, they worked with Mr. Wyke and coming up with, how are we going to do this and how are we going to do that and how are we going to get the little piece in there to get the glass to slide in. It's been really remarkable to watch the kids take off and run with those pieces. So I've been very, very impressed with the student leadership, and like I said, just having the right kids to get that there. So if you haven't had an opportunity to see that, I would encourage you guys at some point to go in and take a look at it. It's so big, they had to put legs on the bottom of it. There was just a lot of creativity and problem solving and thinking through how all of that was going to work. So I encourage you guys to take a look at that if you have not seen that. A lot of things going on as we highlight both January and February. Our January Elk Student of the Month was Lily Lucan up on the top left, and next to her is Mr. Mason Geck, who was our February Elk Student of the Month. Then down on the bottom, we have Maria Kemper was the Rotary Student of the Month, and she actually chose Mrs. Koenig to go with her, our gifted teacher. And then down on the right-hand side, or directly across from that, we have Peyton Beckett, and she chose, and actually they went today, and they had lunch today, and she chose Mrs. Hewling to go with her and introduce her at our Rotary luncheon. A lot of things going on with FCCLA, and I want to come back to that, and I'm actually going to read off of my list because it's truly remarkable what a lot of our students were doing as far as community service projects and opportunities, and I would be remiss if I didn't take an opportunity to recognize not only the work of Dr. Etherton, but also the recognition and what our students are doing there as well. But before we do that, I'll hop over to our positive office referrals. We have Kyle Ullman, Avery Dippold, Grant Weiler, Elena Chandler, Miranda Roll, Cole Bowling, Faith Daly, Braxton Stomberg, Ari Taylor, Allie Byington, and Raylan Herman. And I've had an opportunity to actually knock some of those out today and make some phone calls today. And every time I get an opportunity to talk to parents with those, it's always truly remarkable. I actually had a parent follow up with an email with me today and say that they were extremely nervous about why I was calling them in the middle of the school day. And I usually don't lead in with, I'm calling on a positive office referral. I let them know that I'm there and I've got them on speakerphone and their child is there, and I think some of them get a little nervous in that regard. But we're working on trying to change that perception that every time that the kid comes to the principal's office, it's for something negative. And so we're really working on those pieces. So it's been a lot of fun phone calls. So back to FCCLA. Like I said, I want to take an opportunity to highlight some of these students. J.C. Beckerman competed in career investigation, and this is all done at the Region 6 STAR events down at SEMO. And so these students that competed well will now be moving on from the regional event to the state event. And we have several individuals that are doing that, but I really want to dig into why and what they were doing, because I think that's the piece that really hits home for me. So J.C. Beckerman competed in career investigation, which includes researching a potential career and determining a future career path. Lana Kemper competed in national programs in action. Her project included raising funds to donate the Down Syndrome Association of Greater St. Louis. She worked really hard at several basketball games trying to just get money and fundraise and be able to donate that money back. Trey Bloom also competed in national programs in action, developing a project to showcase the importance of mental and emotional health. In today's day and age, I think that that's extremely important, and Trey really shed a lot of light on those pieces. Elena Schemmel and Sophia DeRoos created fidget cuffs. I know that there was a call for old sweaters that came around for a while, and they actually were working on fidget cuffs, and this piece is what really is cool. They donated them to local hospital to help with Alzheimer patients, and it just really hit home with me as they were working on that and just making that come to fruition. I think that that was really cool. Emma Kay competed in leadership events. For her project, she researched and assessed her current leadership skills and developed a plan to strengthen and improve for the future. So I just think it's remarkable what our FCCLA chapter can do, the community service events, and just everything that they do to give back to the community. So I wanted to take an opportunity to recognize them and Dr. Etherton for their work, and now those students are moving on to the state level. The big game that we have every year, Wheelie Chair basketball. So it's evolved a little bit this year. Traditionally, this has been a competition between Mr. Schwent and Mr. Kraft, and Mr. Kraft did not play in the game this year. However, we did a white versus green game, and I think the evolution of this has started to come about. Mr. Swice does our announcing for the event, and it really is just a lot of fun. The kids get into it. The faculty gets into it. It's kind of rough sometimes. We lose some wheels occasionally. Some teachers get thrown out of chairs as they're competing, and it really is a ton of fun. The kids really get into it. It wasn't really a close game, as you can see this year. The green team, comprised of Mrs. Robertson, Mr. Sherry, Mr. Rapp, Mrs. Ritter, and Mr. Roth, kind of beat the white team pretty handily this year. I will say Mrs. Ritter was a very, very strong addition to that green team. She scored probably the high point score on that green team. So she was a great addition to the game. Just a lot of fun for our kids, and really kicked us off and springboarded us into a lot of great things that were happening. So this past Saturday was probably overall one of the neatest opportunities I think that we've ever had at St. Genevieve High School, and it kind of gives me goosebumps, especially from the athletic standpoint. I know that Dr. Nix, Mrs. Jury, and I were texting back and forth feverishly over a lot of different things. We're watching the district. I'm sitting over at Potosi watching the girls play basketball, watching our boys at district wrestling kick butt there, and then having to watch the girls go into overtime with Kingston for the second time this year. And this time we had a much better outcome. So the girls ended up winning the consolation bracket of the MAAA tournament, which is a huge thing for them, especially beating that Kingston team that they had lost to in overtime earlier this year. Our district wrestlers, they qualified 12 out of 14 weight classes. They won the district title. We only competed in 13 of the 14, so that was a huge deal. We're taking 12 wrestlers to compete up at the state meet on the boys' side, and then Izzy Bosler is also going on the girls' side. So just really a lot of great things happening there at district wrestling. And then for the first time, what we're told, the first time in school's history, we won the MAAA conference basketball tournament. So just an amazing day on Saturday. We were not in session, and our kids are spread out all over the place, and just amazing things were happening for our kids. And so it was really neat to watch all of those things unfold. The boys beat Park Hill Central the night before on Friday night, and a lot of times when you play that big game, you come back that next night and you're a little sluggish, and it takes a lot of energy out of you. And our boys showed up, and they were ready to play on Saturday night too, and ended up coming out victorious over North County. So just a lot of really good things for our athletics on Saturday, and just a lot of fun really in general. Our principal advisory group, this is, you can see in there somewhere, Paul's in there dressed up in a suit, and he reminded me that he was dressed better than I was that day. So we took a group that comprises my principal advisory group, and I know I've talked about it at the board meeting before, but that's our NHS president, STUCO president, our 4 class officers, and then 1 at-large member that I choose. And we took a trip up to Fox High School and got an opportunity to meet not only our incoming assistant principal, Dustin Schnabel, but we also got an opportunity to meet Dr. Sherp, who is the principal up at Fox High School. And he took us all around their campus, gave us a tour, gave us an opportunity to be able to meet with their student council, with their student senate, and just get an opportunity to brainstorm and kick around ideas and see things in a little bit of a different light, see some things and some ways that they do things at Fox High School. And we were, as a group, as a principal advisory group, we were able to come back and really come away with some really, really good ideas. And I think some of the things that you guys are going to see, really a lot of the branding and some things that Fox does really well that we need to continue to work on and to really continue to improve in our area. But just some really, really good ideas came from there, and we were able to share some ideas with them. And actually, in talking to Dr. Sherp, they're actually going to try to make a trip here and be able to spend a day with us, and so kind of become a little bit of an exchange. His kids were clamoring for that piece to be able to come and see what we do down here at St. John, and it was just really neat, an opportunity to be able to get to meet them and talk, and I don't know, our kids be able to collaborate. Would you agree with that, Paul? Did you enjoy the day? It's not what I wanted to hear, Paul. Yeah, they just did a fantastic job. A lot of hospitality, and they just do things really, really well. And then the last thing that I have for you guys this evening, our Teacher of the Month for January is Mr. Jay Pope, who is our current head football coach. As I've talked about in the past, we put out a form to all of our students. Our students send us back comments. Paul actually was handing his in to me this evening, and our principal advisory group goes in and they choose just based solely on the comments. It doesn't identify the teacher. All they see is comments, and they choose which teacher is going to be the Teacher of the Month. So for January, it was Mr. Pope, and I'm going to try to read that, but my eyes aren't the greatest anymore. He is so inspirational and encouraging. He always has a positive attitude and keeps his students involved. He loves to listen to stories and laugh with us. He always has good advice when his students are in a sticky situation. He has nice things to say about every student. He has never made discouraging comments in class or to his athletes. Athletes come into his room often, and he shows he is welcoming. He has healthy relationships with students, and they come to visit him often. And I think it's important to remember that, Jay is just in his first couple of years of teaching, but Jay also works with our at-risk students as well. So he has a very different population that he works with, and to hear those comments and to hear those things coming from our students, I think is extremely important to keep in mind as we do that. He chose the quote down at the bottom, which is from Grandpa Frank, and I'm definitely not even going to try to read that, but if you guys are interested, send me an email, and I'm more than happy to send that February background to you guys. That's what we push out to all of our students in the high school, so they have an opportunity to see that when they open their computer screens each day instead of just seeing just a plain background. We push that out each month. It's got some major dates highlighted, and then also has a quote from the Teacher of the Month, and is usually themed with whatever is going on. So February is obviously themed around Valentine's Day, but just has been a lot of fun to work with that. I thank our tech department for just being open to pushing that out to our students and giving us the opportunity to do that. So,
Excellent quote.
Grandpa Frank was good.
Yeah. It says, "You are entitled to nothing. You don't get what you think you deserve. You get what you earn. And to keep it, you must earn it again every single day."
Yeah. So that's it from the high school.
Thank you. And the last item on my report is typically safety reports, but we've had quite a few snow days, and so there are no safety reports this month. And that's the end of my report.
Next on the agenda, we have the instructional program presentation for 5th grade.
Yes, 5th grade put together a video.
This is our 5th grade curriculum presentation for 2022. In science, we explore life, earth, and physical science by doing various labs and projects. We use game formats and working together in groups to learn our new vocabulary and build upon skills that we learned in previous grade levels, especially in 4th grade. Our first major unit that we explore is our engineering design unit. And this unit, we do a lot of labs. We teach students to start thinking as engineers and scientists. We learn how to work together as a team and to problem solve, not give up, and design fair test. So this first unit is all about becoming a scientist and an engineer. In Unit 2, our next unit is about matter and its interactions. We learn various properties of matter and how to measure those properties using different science tools, such as the metric ruler, the triple beam balance, the graduated cylinder. We learn about density, volume, mass, and how all of those go together to be able to describe matter in its various states. We then use the properties of matter that we've been learning to separate mixtures and based on those properties. Unit 3 also looks at matter, but it looks at how matter moves through an ecosystem as it transforms energy from the sun into matter that is carried through food chains and food webs. In Unit 4, we look at the structures of plants and animals, and we learn how these structures go together in different systems that allow living things to grow, reproduce, and survive within their environment. Unit 5, we start to shift to earth science away from life science. In earth science, they learn first how the different spheres of the earth interact and rely upon one another for things like the water cycle, the rock cycle, soil formation. We also learn how it's a very delicate system and that their human interaction or human influences these systems, and we need to protect our natural resources. So we learn about renewable energy. We do labs such as building a windmill, where students learn to value its importance of an alternative energy source. In Unit 6, we look at Earth's place in the universe. We begin to study the patterns and relationships between the movement of the Earth and the Moon as it goes around the Sun, and how the Moon goes around the Earth. They look at patterns for day and night, for seasons, for shadows, for tides, and think about how those occur and what's causing them. In mathematics, there is a lot of different learning going on, both whole group, small group. There's learning stations. There's little mini hands-on labs. There's also some learning through games online and in-person games as well. The first part of the year focuses heavily on reviewing place value, and students have to be able to recognize, compare, and understand numbers from the billions to the thousands. In Units 2, 3, and 4, they then apply this number sense to learn how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide whole numbers and decimals. They also have to be able to explain their thinking when they're solving various problems. In Unit 3, it looks at one-digit division, and Unit 4 looks at two-digit division, so it gets progressively harder. And again, all of these require them to use their appropriate math vocabulary and to justify their solutions and check their answers. In Unit 5, they begin fractions, and they have to learn the vocabulary related to fractions to be able to describe using models to understand and relate those models to fractions. They learn how to add and subtract, multiply, and divide. They also have to represent what is happening, what operation they're using by using a vision fraction model, and to explain the reason or justify the reasonableness of their answer. Then Unit 7, they move on to show how fractions and decimals are related, and they learn to add and subtract decimals to the thousandths place. When they multiply then in Unit 8, it builds upon these skills, and again, they are learning how to estimate, to justify their answers, and to make sure that those are reasonable. Unit 9 is looking at measurement, and they're applying both standard and metric measurement to find the area and volume of 2D shapes. They are converting measurements from one unit of measure to another through a series of steps for both length, capacity, and weight. And these concepts are reinforced through our science curriculum as well, where we use the metric system and we help them understand the difference between the two systems and how they relate. In Unit 10 for geometry, they have to classify different dimensional shapes, both 2D and 3D, and they need to be able to graph points on a coordinate plane in order to solve problems. In Unit 11 for data and statistics, they have to be able to create a line graph. They also have to understand and interpret a set of data and read a graph. They have to be able to analyze and extrapolate to see where that data might be beyond the graph itself. And again, this is reinforced through our science curriculum as well. The last unit is looking at expressions and patterns, and students are really using their strong number sense and their understanding of order of operations to help solve different numeric expressions where they may need to identify the rule for the expression, find a pattern or a missing number. So some really good algebraic thinking is going on in this unit. Students also have to be able to solve expressions and use grouping symbols to make sure that the expression matches a given answer, and then rewrite that expression. Our next unit of study, or our next curriculum area, is social studies. In social studies, we cover the period from the American Revolution, right at the end of it, through the Civil Rights Movement, through different historical events. We also have some geography skills that reinforce throughout the entire unit that are interspersed with map skills. Our first unit is the new nation. This focuses heavily on the forming of our country and the writing of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, how it set up our government, the structure of our government, and the problems and issues that we face at the beginning, and how those are resolved. We also look at the Louisiana Purchase and how that opened up land to the West, and how various inventions in the Industrial Revolution really helped our nation progress. That leads us into the development of differences between the North and South as far as their lifestyle, and how the Industrial Revolution also caused changes to slavery and caused many issues and differences between the North and South that led to the Civil War. We then follow that up with, after we learn the major events of the Civil War, we follow up what was the impact of it, what did we do following that as far as settling the West, the building of the Transcontinental Railroad, and the explosion and growth of cities, especially on the East Coast. We then explore World War I, World War II, the Great Depression. We look at voting rights and women's suffrage movement, and then we study the Civil Rights Movement as well, as where we end our year. All of these, again, are reinforced through the ELA curriculum, through the use of periodicals and books and current events that we study throughout the year related to perhaps holidays and things like that. So many of those concepts are taught in ELA. With our ELA, it covers reading, writing, and grammar. We use a balanced literacy approach where students are given direct instruction, but they're also then met where they are at their level, and they are allowed to show the connection between reading and writing. First semester, we launched the Reader's Workshop, where we are testing students to determine what level are they, where do we need to meet them to meet their needs. We introduce them and reinforce comprehension strategies they learned in previous grades. And then we start looking at fiction text for story structure. We mainly focus on character analysis, where we're looking at the different roles or functions of the characters in the story and how they impact the story. We draw conclusions and make inferences about character traits and support that with textual evidence. We also compare the theme of the story and learn how to summarize a story well. while we're reading about fiction and how a story goes together, we're also writing about that. So in writing, they're using what they've learned about story narratives and story structure to write their own personal narratives. They begin incorporating proper grammar and language skills and learning how to turn a seed of writing or a good idea into a full-blown piece. The second semester of reading, we start looking at nonfiction. They look at the text structures, the different ways fiction or nonfiction pieces are put together, and how to summarize nonfiction with main idea and details. They also analyze persuasive text to figure out what is the author's purpose, what's the author's viewpoint, how are they getting their point across, and determining are they making their point, are they being persuasive. The last two units in reading, Unit 7 goes back to looking at fiction. They're analyzing a little bit deeper again, and this time they're looking at really drawing conclusions and inferring, reading between the lines and knowing what the author is wanting them to know. And they're referencing that with textual evidence to support their answers. Unit 8 is all about poetry and drama and myths. So students are immersed in lots of poetry. They read plays. They study that structure, and then they learn different myth origin stories as well. So during the second semester of writing, then, it coordinates with what they were doing in the semester. So they start out with informational writing and persuasive writing, just like they were in reading. And here the students learn proper note-taking skills. They learn how to research, where to find information. They learn how to organize notes into a paragraph. They have to learn how to support an argument with an opinion and evidence to support that opinion. And this is reinforced through our library curriculum as well. So during this time of the year, while students are writing their persuasive and informational pieces of writing, they're also writing and researching library at the same time, so they kind of reinforce each other there as well. And again, all of this is focusing on proper structure, proper sentence, paragraph, and use of language and grammar skills. And then the last unit of writing is poetry, where students get to be poets. They look at the different forms of poetry, the different structure of poetry, and then they try to emulate that and develop their own texts. Throughout ELA in both buildings at St. Gen and Elementary, one of their main components is that we try to meet students at their level and to intervene and provide help where needed. So all students are grouped into different guided reading groups based on their DRA reading levels and how they are performing in the classroom. They then receive individualized instruction, mostly in small groups. Occasionally it might be individually one-on-one or one-on-two. We have several teachers involved in this process. We have the grade level teachers at St. Gen. We also have our special education teacher, Ms. Hook, and we have a reading interventionist, Mrs. Megan Keeger. At Bloomsdale, they follow the same procedure. They have their 5th grade ELA teacher, their special education teacher, and then they have their reading interventionist as well, who is helping with that. But both of these programs at both schools are basically to help students advance and grow as readers and meeting them where they are. Thank you. I hope that you learned a little bit more about what we do in 5th grade. We consider it one of the best. We have a lot of fun, and we think the kids do too. Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda is our school calendar for 2022.
So last month I brought you, this month I'm bringing you the calendar for action. This calendar is the same as the one that we brought you last month. The calendar committee put out a survey to all of our employees. We received a total of 109 responses, so that is up from last year, so we are very happy with that. Of those, 77 respondents were happy with the calendar and had no suggestions. There were 32 suggestions. Some people gave multiple suggestions. So When meeting with the calendar committee and going through those suggestions, the two that received the most suggestions with 6 comments each. The first is to make a work day for teachers after Christmas break and to start school on a Wednesday or Thursday. The next items that rose to the top were take the Wednesday before Thanksgiving off, move or make a PD day before October, and the committee did ask me to clarify this other comment that received 4 comments, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The committee made the decision not to make any changes to this calendar because of the constraints that we have put on it. And it's not necessarily us. We can't start the first day of school, I think it's 14 days before Labor Day. So that the first allowable day to start school is on Monday, August, my eyes are terrible, 22nd, Jerry? Okay, that is the first allowable day that we can start school. So the committee is suggesting that we start on that day. Thank you. And that we keep everything similar to the calendar this year, because during first semester, that gives us 82 days, 527 hours of instruction. They didn't want to change anything in second semester either, and that gives us 90 days in second semester with 581 hours of instruction. So to take any days out of first semester creates a greater imbalance in your first and second semester, and then you have to look at pushing the end of your first semester into January. We did that 1 year, 1 or 2. Do you remember?
It
was a couple of years. Yeah.
It was. I will tell you, it was really difficult with our students that were early graduates that were moving on to community colleges, our students that were early graduates that were going to the military, because they needed final transcripts and we couldn't give them anything until the middle of January. And that became very, very difficult because they're trying to start that next stage, but we can't get anything until we close our semester. That was very, very difficult. So.
Correct. So the committee didn't make any changes to what was laid out. The one thing that they did ask me to clarify, there were 4 comments about removing the 5 teacher makeup days that you see May 30th through June 6th. Those are not necessarily just teacher makeup days. Those are for all employees. And it was a suggestion that came off of the calendar comments last year from a couple of employees, that we identify the dates that could be used as potential work days after students are out for employees to come in and make up time. So those are there for all employees if we have a lot of snow days, say 12, 14, 15, and we have support staff members who need to make up hours. So those are there for our teachers and our support staff. Does it mean we're going to use them? No. But it's a way to tell our employees, hey, don't make any summer plans or any vacation plans before this day. Because we do have employees who, as soon as school's out, they want to go on a trip and get out of here. It's very windy, yes. So that's why those days are on there. So this is the calendar that the committee is proposing that you approve tonight.
So I gotta get myself on this for a little bit. We used to start around, like, say, August 10th or 12th, right?
Yes.
And we were mandated by the state legislature to start no earlier than 14 days prior to
Labor Day. Correct.
Which, if that's what parents want, that's great. I just don't want to do it because it just goes what legislators want.
Correct.
Because it then shortens up the first semester instead of 82 days.
Yes.
Thus, we can't split the year in half. What we have, but
More equally.
as appropriately and equally as it used to be, causing the problems that the principals have talked about. And that's why we prefer local control. So we can set the calendar dates. I'm speaking for me and not all myself.
Thank you.
I concur with him. You've taken it out of our hands.
Yes, they
State
have.
legislators, you cannot start it in here like this. They're right, not going to go along with that.
And that was due to pressure from tourism, and I get tourism, but I'm pretty sure kids' education is more important. so I got back on the soapbox. Now.
Well, I'm just going to do it.
Besides that one.
I'll make a motion to approve the 2022-23 school calendar as presented.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda, we have new business, beginning with the amended budget.
Yes, I'm pleased to bring you the second amendment to our budget. We continue to be more conservative with revenues and more aggressive with expenses. That has served this district well, especially as we've navigated the COVID-19 pandemic and faced reduced state funding and some other things due to the uncertainty that came with it. I am gonna pull up the budget here for you. I thought it would give me a little bit more help here. I'll just use my book. If you go to my letter is on the first page with a basic explanation. If you go to, I think it's about page 15. That should be a summary. I give up. That should be the summary of the revenues. We are projecting bringing in an estimated $32 million. That $32 million does include ESSER funds and ESSER 3 funds. It's not all of the ESSER 3 funds that we've been allocated from the federal government because of the uncertainty surrounding that money. Missouri is the only state that has not accepted the ESSER funds, and we're running out of time. For St. John, it's $2.25 million. For other districts, it's drastically more. For some districts, not quite as much. But these are COVID relief funds that our legislatures have not accepted from the federal government. And like I said, Missouri is the only state that has not accepted the funds. If Missouri does not act by the deadline, it's sometime in March. I want to say March 24th, but I'm not sure if that's accurate. The funds will go back to the federal government, and the federal government will disperse the money among the other 49 states. The federal government will not keep the money. So this budget does take into account about $2 million in ESSER funding. But if we don't get the ESSER 3 funds, that's about $1.1 million in this budget that I'm projecting that we're going to use and bring in revenue. Our ESSER 3 funds we've allocated to mostly salaries and benefits, because if you allocate them to federal or to capital projects, you have to meet the federal prevailing minimum wage and all of the federal requirements on capital projects, which are crazy and ridiculous. So what we're doing is bringing them in on salaries and benefits, freeing up local money and using local money to address HVAC issues, some roofing projects, and to also assist with our legal fees in the wholesome tax abatement legal battle. So that's a quick summary of the revenues. If you go to the last two pages in your budget book, the very last page is a copy of our debt service bond payment schedule. This year we're paying about $2 million in bonds, and that'll leave us an outstanding debt on June 30th of $7.2 million. I wanted to point that out, because we do have a large bond issue on the April 5th ballot. Our bonding capacity is 55, taking this into account. I was trying to think of the total amount, but it's 55 million. So we are in a good position to run that bond issue and do it at a no tax increase proposition. If you look at the page in front of the debt service summary, this is a summary of the budget. It gives you the beginning balances from June 30th, 2021. It shows you our estimated revenues that I went over a little bit. Estimated expenses are at about $31.6 million. Once we do the transfers to cover the payments out of our Fund 2 and Fund 4, it looks like this budget should come out in a positive of $372,000. There is about $220,000 in contingency money built in that we put it there to cover some unexpected expenses, so it is still sitting in here. I do project that the budget's going to end up in a much better place than this, but again, it's going to depend if I can get part of that ESSER 3 money in or not. If I can't, then it's not going to end in a positive. We're gonna spend down some of our fund balances until we can get access to it, if we can get access to it. So that's just kind of a quick run through.
Did you give any reason why we have not accepted it?
No, I have not heard any reasons. I haven't heard. I know they've discussed it, and it's made it out of.
It's
out of the House.
In the Senate.
It's in the Senate.
Is mired down in filibuster over reusing district.
Yeah.
You can certainly reach out to Dale and Elaine, but I can tell you, this is just me. Dale and Elaine are Senator Gannon and Representative Wright, probably. It's some others.
Okay.
Just trying to summarize.
Appreciate it.
Politeness.
Thank you.
And we also get to go meet with them on March 7th.
Yes.
Yes. And I appreciate you, whoever's going, taking the time and going to do that.
Senator Gannon and Representative Wright always had our backs.
You're very supportive.
Girls budgeting, we very much appreciate it.
Yes.
You can communicate with those two people, you can talk to them, right? They don't set themselves up and look down at you, you can talk to the people.
Yes, and as Dr. Taylor shared today, when we were talking with some teachers, Representative Wright, you leave him a message, he gets back to you. I've had the same experience with Senator Gannon. They want to talk to you, they want to hear what you have to say, and they do their best to support you. They can't always agree with you, but they do their best to support you and or explain why they're going to vote a certain way. So it's good to have that two-way communication with them.
That answers the question of why it hasn't been passed, but I just want to reiterate what Dr. King said. If those funds aren't accepted and appropriated, they go back to the federal government, and we're not saving anyone any money. That money just gets dispersed out in Illinois, Iowa, and California. Just our students do that.
Correct.
Thank you, Dr.
Talking about who sets the agenda for the Senate.
I'm not sure.
I'm not trying to put my own spot. I'm saying that I think we brought up and voted on. But I think the Speaker of the House sets the agenda.
President Pro Tem.
President Pro Tem sets the agenda. I don't see why that person can't bring it up, have it voted on it, and move on, and then go back to their bickering on their.
Unless things change, they're filibuster.
The last thing that I wanted to point out in the budget, the majority of our budget, 77%, is for employee salary and benefits. And that in Missouri is in line with the majority of what other school districts do. Somewhere in the 70 to 80% of the budget goes for salary and benefits. And that's a common thing throughout Missouri. So
I have this number somewhere. Do you know how much of our revenue is local?
74, yeah.
Roughly 74%, which is wonderful, and we
Mhm.
appreciate that. I do want to say one thing on, sorry, I got me started. There's an open enrollment bill out there that's being pushed also. Open enrollment being if a child from Farmington wants to come to our school, they would be able to do that, given some other qualifications and requirements. But the local funding stays there. So
Correct.
children here, we would get our state funding for that child, which is probably more like 20%, 19-20% maybe of what comes from what we spend on each child. 19 or 20% of it comes from the state, 74% local, and then some federal dollars playing in there. So we would get those dollars, but we would not get that 74%. So that means every child here is just a little less to spend. I think there's some conversations that can be had there. I don't know exactly where I stand on that, but that part I don't like at all. So that's being talked about. So all your legislators.
Nowhere in that open enrollment legislation, as far as I know, do they address transportation.
It's the parents or the city.
The last version I saw of it, it was the parents' responsibility.
Parents responsible.
Many times when you have legislative people who are introducing stuff, on the surface, it sounds good. They do a sales job. But after it's there, like, well, I didn't know we were going to do that.
You didn't read it.
Unintended consequences at the expense of a lot of people.
It also creates paperwork and administration that is completely unfunded. So it's more work. I get that. It helps more kids, but that same money could be spent to help the district that's having the problem. So, we're back at
No problem.
Motion to approve the February amended budget for 2021-22 school year as presented.
Motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the CSIP, or Comprehensive School Improvement Plan.
Good evening, everyone. We met last week with a group of 29 individuals, parents, teachers, administrators, even the student came in and helped us out. There's an issue with updating our current CSIP. Our current CSIP falls under the guidelines of MSIP 5. MSIP 5 is going away. The first round of MSIP 6 will be in 2022, coming up in a couple months. The timing for updating the CSIP fell very poorly, and of course they're a little bit behind on getting the guidelines for MSIP 6 out. I had hoped by the time we were going to update the CSIP that we would have those guidelines so we could update it appropriately. That didn't happen. So we just used MSIP 5 guidelines, updated it as we normally do. As soon as those MSIP 6 guidelines come out, I will begin looking at how to adjust what we're currently doing to incorporate the additional guidelines and the changes associated with MSIP 6. So that being said, we did update our current CSIP under the MSIP 5 guidelines. The general information was we removed old data. We kept about 10 years of data in there, and I asked the individual groups to update the targets where appropriate. For Goal 1, building classroom leadership, we had some minor wording updates. Goal 2, collaborative culture, minor wording updates. Goal 3, curriculum instruction and assessment on page 20 of the CSIP. Strategy 2, lesson plans, we added action steps 4 and 5. Also, in your copies of the CSIP, everything that's updated or changed has been highlighted in yellow or green for easy access. On page 24, Strategy 8, Missouri Connections and ICAP, we added action step 2. On page 25, Strategy 11, at-risk students, we removed action step 4. Goal 4, technology, we had some minor wording updates. And then Goal 5, parent, family, and community involvement, safety, and facilities. On page 35, strategy 2, student transition, we added action steps 22 and 23. And then on page 38, strategy 7, CSIP, we removed action step 1. I cannot wait to dig into MSIP 6 and to start the update process. I think they're going to have some good additions. They're going to have an equity session, an equity section. We're going to have to address some of that. Everything I've been a part of with the MAC committee meetings in those discussions has been a lot of smart people trying to do what's best for the students in the state of Missouri. So I can't wait for them to finalize that information and get it out to us. So with that, I ask that you update the committee's changes to the Comprehensive School Improvement Plan for the 21-22 school year.
And the composition of the committee was parents and students too, correct?
Yeah,
Along with
so it never fails. We'll schedule the CSIP and then we have snow day. And I ask all the building administrators to get some parents to come in and if appropriate, students of age to come in. We had to reschedule, so that created some conflicts, but we did have some parents there and at least one student.
I'll make a motion to approve the revisions to the comprehensive school improvement plan for the St. Genevieve Elementary School District as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the addition of an elementary counselor position.
Yes. When I was talking about salaries and benefits in our ESSER 3 funds, I failed to mention we added some elementary teachers this year to address learning loss at specific grade levels. Those teachers' salaries and benefits are built into that application. For the 22-23 school year, I'm building in salary and benefits for the elementary counselor position. Trying to think what else is in there. The addition, we added an assistant principal at Bloomsdale Elementary a couple of years ago, so the salary and benefits for that position are in there for the next 2 years. It's just positions like that because we have had to add positions because of students' learning loss and to address the high needs. And this is another high need that we're seeing. Let me pull up the proposal that's actually in board docs so you can look at numbers. We currently have one counselor at Bloomsdale Elementary. That counselor serves, and I think these are kindergarten through 5th grade numbers. Yes, so preschool is not on here. That counselor serves 308 students. At St. John Elementary, we have 517 students, and we have one counselor serving all of them. At the middle school, we have 415 students. We have 1.5. And at the high school, we have 537, and we have 2.5. Mr. Ed Draper is the half in each of those buildings. He serves 8th grade and 9th grade. DESE recommended number for one counselor is for one counselor to have approximately 250 students. So we've known for quite some time at St. John Elementary that we're asking Mrs. Jessica Grimminger to do a lot. So we are recommending tonight that we add a counseling position. Let me scroll down here. Some of the benefits of this position would be the new counselor could assist with the RTI program, smaller groups, more one-on-one meeting the students' needs and being able to free up counselors' times to deal with individual counseling sessions and crises that arise during the day. More help with IQ testing. Mrs. Grimminger in the past, I don't know if she's doing it right now, probably as she can. She's always helped with IQ testing for our special ed and gifted students, and that helps our programs tremendously. And with the addition of this position, if one counselor needs to be out, at this time we don't think we would need to bring in a sub to cover. So that would save a little bit in our substitute teacher expenses. So I would recommend that you add this position based on the needs both emotionally, socially, a lot of other things that we're seeing in our younger students. This is a needed position at St. Genevieve Elementary.
This brings the ratio now to about 258 households. That's an impact over those years. It's 517 to 100 positions relative to 258. So it's just high school.
Yes, correct.
Doesn't this fall in with the CSIP program? I mean, us having to have another counselor?
Yeah, I think it would fall in with some strategies and action steps with
Yeah.
CSIP too, but it also brings us in compliance.
Right.
There you go.
I will make a motion to approve the addition of an elementary counselor position at St. Genevieve Elementary for the 2022-23 school year as presented.
A motion and a second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the addition of an agricultural teacher position.
Yes, we've finally been able to get back to a practice that we used a long time ago. When we have teachers retiring, the practice used to be we would take a hard look at our enrollments and see what position, if that position needed to be filled and or we had an area of need somewhere else. So tonight in closed session, we do have an industrial tech teacher who's made the decision to retire, so you will see that letter and acknowledge it tonight. So working with Dr. Boyd, we took a hard look at the numbers, and we have 3 industrial tech teachers right now, and we have 18 sections of industrial tech offerings. So 4 of those are for the middle school, the rest are for the high school, and here on the screen is the average number of students per section. As you will see, some of them are very low. So in working with Dr. Boyd, taking a look at this, we knew, and I think I've talked about this in a board meeting earlier this year when we were talking about the long-range facility plan. We knew that our ag program was struggling. We were not able this year to put all the students into the sections that they requested just because we didn't have enough sections to offer them. So here are the numbers from our ag department. I know a few of them are not high compared to what you see there, like our high school ag science 2. There's 29 in there.
And we had over 30 requests. We had 30. So we limited opportunities, and really in a safe shop environment, I would say no more than probably 15 kids when we look at having kids go out and shop and develop. 20 probably max in a safe environment.
So what we're proposing tonight is to not replace the industrial tech teacher. This would probably take the middle school offerings in the industrial tech area down to 3. And then I believe the 2 remaining industrial tech teachers will work with Dr. Boyd to look at the classes that they're offering, how they're offering them, and really have a chance to restructure that department and make some changes. So we're projecting 12 sections. So the other part of this is the addition of an agriculture teacher. We would add a middle school exploratory ag option. So that would keep the middle school with their 4 exploratory options. And then the rest of it would be offerings at the high school. And so one of the benefits that Dr. Boyd pointed out to me was we would be able to offer some of these classes for a year-long class instead of just a semester. And what that will do is it will present an opportunity for our students who are interested in ag and continuing on to make that their career path, is we can offer some dual credit opportunities with Southeast Missouri and get them some credit for the ag classes that they are taking. We think this is the change in the direction we need to go. I know for middle school, the exploratory ag is something that I've talked to Hannah about when I was the principal in the middle school. She just didn't have enough hours in her day. We have students in the middle school who I think are going to love this option.
There's a good possibility we'll be able to offer.
Yes.
Can I point something out real
Go ahead.
The one piece that I felt really good about with our industrial arts, I presented and I showed a lot of the work that they've been able to do. Right now between Mr. White, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. Rack, we can offer 12 different offerings in the high school. When we look at splitting out the middle school right now, currently they have 4 offerings in the middle school. And one of the pieces that 2 of those teachers do right now is they take on lunchroom supervision. So one of the creative ideas is to move that responsibility off of them. So in a semester, instead of being able to offer 12 opportunities in the high school, about 3 of them, we will now only be able to offer 9. So we're only really reducing it in the grand scheme of things by 3 offerings. And then that gives us an opportunity to be able to kind of mix and match some classes and really puts us in a really good place. As I've talked to those teachers, they really feel like we're going to be a really good place. Matter of fact, we have a meeting on Thursday to kind of discuss courses and the space that they have down there and what that looks like and how we can maybe modify and make some changes to their area, to their space, to be able to provide them an opportunity to be able to kind of mix and match some drafting and design studies and some more. I don't want to necessarily, but we've gotten away from using the independent study piece of it. We have a lot of students that take a design studies class, which is kind of like Mrs. Bowman teaches with our studio art class, and it is kind of more of an independent type of situation, but they will still be able to have those offerings and those opportunities. We're just kind of reconfiguring some things to still allow them those pieces. And then at the middle school level, taking one of those sections away, but then offering at least one ag that's looking like probably a couple of ag classes in the middle school. I think we'll help out in nursery there as well.
On a variety of things, it gives us several things. It gives us an opportunity to loosen up a little bit. A schedule that we felt tightly up a little bit the last few years because of the number of teachers we have versus the students that we have. We're trying to keep class sizes manageable. It felt like we've been closing in. This helps us loosen things up a little bit and give students some options. That's the second important thing that it does for us. It gives students options so that they can find their circle. And I think that's such an important part of what we do at middle school, is helping students find that circle where they belong, where they have like-minded people, where they can excel. And ag is such a great place for that to happen. And the third thing that it does for us is it gives some recognition again for the growth of the program. When I think about what that program was when I first started here 13 years ago, compared to what it is today, and the accomplishments that she's made in the classroom, in the FFA organization, in her student numbers, it's amazing. And if we can promote that and do everything that we can to support that growth, I think it's always.
Just going to chime in and say the same thing. Hannah's done a fantastic job growing that program, but she did come to us over a year and a half ago with a proposal saying we need another ag teacher. Then COVID happened. She backed off. She understood the parameters that we were dealing with. I think about a month ago she went to Dr. Boyd and said, hey, just wanted to check in and see where that proposal's at. She sent it to us again. The second thing I wanted to say is it's never easy when district office comes over and says, hey, let's take a look at your numbers and your sections and see if we need
No,
to.
it's not.
But that being said, it's a practice that we've done in this district in the past, and we need to get back to it. Dr. Boyd has been nothing but very supportive. He understands the process, and it's been nothing but collaborative as we work through this. It's not we're trying to take something away. It's we're trying to reconfigure to set it up for what's best for all of our students. So I'd like to thank him in the process. He's been fantastic.
We've had an ag program for a long time.
Oh my God.
A long
Very long time.
I mean, they got it.
You know, I personally, when Mrs. Pritchie Dunsey is, she sits up on a pedestal in our house. She took one of my twins, who is a shy kid who couldn't even order at a restaurant. He would just say, "I'll have what his twin was having." It was easier that way. But took him throughout high school and made him an officer eventually, and really he found his confidence, he found his groove, he found his people. So by the time he was a senior, I think he spent 4 hours with her. And I told her, I said, "You're a saint. I don't know that I can spend 4 hours a day with him at school." But she really does wonderful things with our students. We're really fortunate to have her, as we are many other teachers in our CTE programs. They're just phenomenal people.
I'm excited to see this it's our state's top industry. So
Absolutely.
we've got a lot of going on here, a real positive program. Just hope that we also know carpenters and electricians and plumbers too.
Yes.
But I know these numbers dictate what we're suggesting. I just want to try to keep encouraging kids to get that tech realm also.
Definitely.
Motion to approve the addition of agricultural teacher to the teacher position in high school for 2022-23 school year as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We go to adjourn to executive session.
Ms. Diesel, this is where you get to shine.
I don't think I can read it as quickly as you do. I'll have to practice quite a bit.
Under revised Missouri Statute 610.021, I motion that the Board of Education adjourn to a closed meeting with a closed record and a closed vote after a short break for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting of particular employees, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, and individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment, except that this exemption shall not apply to the names, positions, salaries, and lengths of service of officers and employees of public agencies once they are employed as such, and the names of private sources donating or contributing money to the salary of the chancellor or president at all public colleges and universities in the state of Missouri, and the amount of money contributed to by the source. Roll call. David Bova.
Yes, sir.
Eric Hosler.
Yes.
Carol Diesel.
Yes.
James Kirshner. Martha Reesinger.
Yes.
Richard Rudoff.
Yes.
Terrence McDaniel. Yes. Motion carried. 7-0.